Kate Floss, reporting live from wherever I am in the world for my own safety. I just recently did a video on these international courts that are being set up all over the world. What I'm saying to you is that there is a very devious, deep thing wrong going on in the world here, where these courts that have no founding in law, they're set up by every man and his dog. But what they're doing now is they're getting lawyers or supposed lawyers in our country that supposedly have their qualifications, and what they're doing is they're meeting with legitimate people that have legitimate complaints that can't afford a lawyer, and they're giving them their legal advice and legal assistance for free. Now, since the people can't afford the $6,000 to $14,000 that it costs to take, that they think it costs to take their case to court, and no lawyers will take their cases anyway because there's no money in it, the people are latching on to these lawyers. Now, what the sneaky and the criminal element, in my opinion, because all these courts are not illegal. Anyone can go and set up a court and put up a picture and say, here's my common law court, and the people of the neighbourhood are coming, and this guy's got a doctorate degree, and this lady's got a lawyer's degree, and they can put out all sorts of information. They're not illegal. They are illegal. But there is a fine line being crossed here, where lawyers are meeting legitimate people with legitimate complaints. And what are they doing? They're getting those people's cases and they're filing legitimate cases in our legitimate courts, but they're adding on and inserting these quackery courts, the quackery courts of justice. And I'm saying to you that the United Nations is also a part of it. United Nations has been infusing their laws all through, and once the United Nations started doing it in 1993 with the Fisheries Act in New Zealand, once they started doing it, all these other courts, Humanitarian, New World Order, International Tribunal of Natural Justice, all of these quackery ecclesiastical courts are all following the United Nations and attaching themselves to be placed within our legal system. Now, the judge in our legal system may not give any thought, but the fact of the matter is, as soon as it's inserted into a legitimate court system as being part of their case, it gives it deceives the public into thinking that these quasi-quackery courts have got some legitimacy in our courts when they actually don't. Now, I'm here to warn everybody, and I'm saying that there needs to be an investigation into all of our courts, all of our parliaments in the Commonwealth countries. There's something going on here, and we intend to expose it. Next place here. So we've got here Humanitarian, we've got the New World Order, Natural World Organization. We have got the United Nations, but remember, they're supposed to be non-binding, but they've inserted them to our Human Rights Act in our law, and they've piggybacked it on to give it credibility. And so everybody else is following the lead of the United Nations. So I'm saying it all starts right here. United Nations, one world symbolism for the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. Now, here's what they're saying. This is from me down here. It says, this is what the lawyer called Frederick Menkert, of the Professor of Law, and also Robert Curry, a Professor of Law at Dalhousie University. This is what they are saying about this, and this is what I'm saying. It's another one of these quackery courts, or what they truly are is ecclesiastical courts. That's what they are, ecclesiastical courts, which have no judicial power, they have no authority, they have no legal status. However, what lawyers like Sue Gray, we've got one Sue Gray in New Zealand, and then we've got another Sue Gray spelled Gray. She's in England. And both of them seem to be trying to infuse these quackery and these ecclesiastical laws into our legitimate legal system. I think, allegedly, according to me, in my opinion, in my own conspiracy theory. Now, they're attaching them to our correct judicial courts to give them credibility. And I'm not going to say just, but I'm saying it's my opinion, but we are investigating it. So the Robert Carey says that these documents have absolutely no legal status or any power whatsoever. These documents are entirely made up. And then from Frederique Magritte, she says, this is another one, the International Common Law of Justice is not an institution with judicial power, and the measures announced in the documents are only symbolic. Now, this is the point. They're actually not illegal. They're symbolic. They're not actually telling you that these are legal documents, but the public are being fooled here into thinking that they are legal. And especially when you get a lawyer like Sue Gray, a legitimate lawyer, adding the names of these ecclesiastical courts, adding them into our proper legal documents and attaching them or piggybacking them on, it does deceive the public into thinking that they're legitimate. And that is the deception and the fraud here. Now, here's another one. Now, this is the one that Sue Gray attended. Sue Gray attended a international tribunal for natural justice in 2019. She attended. Now, she's saying she's distanced herself from this, but I don't think she has, because I have found her, there are many of these organisations, and I believe they all come from one source. And who is the source behind it all? That is the real question here. That is the question. Who is the source? I don't think these people are coming up with this by themselves. I don't. One of the people involved with the International Tribunal for Justice was a man called James B. Gilmore. I've already done a video on him, but I'll just announce his name. And so he was convicted. His tribunal, not the same as Sue Gray's tribunal. Sue Gray's tribunal was about biomedical research or something. But his tribunal was the Judicial Commission of Human Trafficking and I don't like to say child sex, I will say molestation of children. So I don't like to put those words together. I will say molestation of children. Now, James B. Gilmore was a fraudster, and he was involved with that tribunal set up by the same people, Sasha Stone, John Walsh, and another man called Young. All right, so we're going to get him in a minute. No, I already did the video on that, but I'm just doing a quick review, about 10 minutes review. Now, J. Gilmore was a Ponzi artist, as you can see here. He was a huge Ponzi artist. He was involved with Mr. Gilmore, and his adult daughter were involved in what Bloomberg called was one of the most outlandish scams in the history of the get-rich-quick schemes, involving millions of dollars. And in fact, James Gilmore's brother was also prosecuted, allegedly, for another scam, and they were involved with this group here called Humanitade. So this is another one of the groups. So we've had Humanitade. You can't even keep up with their names. Every time one of their organisation is exposed for the scam that it is, they just create a new one. and they go around all the most vulnerable communities, drug addicts, alcohol centres, especially our native tribes, our native Aboriginal tribes in Australia, native Maori tribes in New Zealand, Indigenous tribes and First Nation tribes in Canada. They hit all of these people because these people are extremely vulnerable people, and they're hitting all of them. So this is James Gilmore. He was involved with that one. But this all came from this man here called John Walsh. Now here you can see here, I've already done this video. Here's Sue Gray. This video is specifically about Sue Gray. Here's Sue Gray standing with the ecclesiastical leaders. And here is a man called Robert O. Young. Okay, and that's who we're going to be talking about. I'm sure I've seen this lady around as well. And they've been setting up these and this is what they are. These are ecclesiastical courts, and in an actual fact, our 1688 Bill of Rights forbids them. Now, John Walsh, he is the apparent Chief Justice of the International Tribunal on Natural Justice. From my understanding, it's kind of closed down, but they've sprung up with 100 new ones to replace it. But because he has been discovered, he was delisted from the Australian qualifications. He was running a university in Norfolk Island called Greenwich University and handing out degrees for every man and his dog. And it all started to see all of these. I'm questioning Sue Gray's qualifications now, because these degree organisations were set up in 1980. And Sue Gray got her qualification in 1990. I'm wondering about things. I'm not saying she didn't get it. I'm saying I'm questioning the degrees now that I'm looking at the degrees of these people. Now, John Walsh was a legitimate lawyer. Lord knows how he got his degree, because he was disbarred. And if he was a legitimate lawyer, setting up a university and giving out these what do they call? I forget what they call, but anyway, these easy degrees. If he was a proper lawyer, why would he need to do that? So I'm questioning that, because proper lawyers make very good money. Most lawyers don't need to act illegally because they make good money and they do know the law. Well, he did know the law, but he managed to circumvent the law. He was delisted from the Australian qualifications, and after that he was disbarred from practicing as a lawyer. And then he set up shop as the Chief Justice of the International Tribunal, of which Sue Gray had been attending, and also Robert Young had been attending. Now, here are the actual legal cases. This all occurred in 2017. You can go and research John Walsh yourself. He was all a part of it, but this is just a review of what I've already did in the last video. So you could go and read. He was removed from the Registrar of Practitioners in 2018. He had committed both professional misconduct and unprofessional misconduct. What else? He was fighting the hearing and everything. So that's John Walsh. So you can go and research him all by yourself. But that's not what the case is about today. We've already done John Walsh, but he was the Chief Justice for the International Tribunal. Now, this man here was also working with John Walsh, beside John Walsh, at the Greenwich University. Now, how did this come about that they met? Originally, John Walsh appointed this man called Ian McKechnie. Ian McKechnie was appointed by John Walsh at the Greenwich University that was pumping out degrees as fast as you can say, "How's your father?" John Walsh, the Chief Justice of the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, hired Ian McKechnie as the Vice Chancellor of the Greenwich University. However, that all occurred around the year, 2000, I don't know when they opened up the Greenwich University, but previously to that in 2002, Ian McKechnie had set up a university online called the Golden State University. And the Golden State University appeared on the internet. It wasn't illegal. You still had to do a little bit of work to get the qualification. But it was advertised in a newspaper that warned people, and eventually he closed down by himself, apparently. Well, why did he close down? Because he went to work for John Walsh as a paid vice chancellor at this Greenwich University that was set up on Norfolk Island, which was approved by the mayor of the Prime Minister, I think, of Norfolk Island. It's just a huge thing going on here. So this was Ian McKechnie. So they've got your John Walsh, Ian McKechnie, but that's not what the case is about today. Got to keep going, people. So I'm not going to go here, but these are just some of the documents, and you'll see a lot of these documents that are being used by the tribes, the Aboriginal tribes, the native Maori tribes in New Zealand, the tribes in Canada, the Indian tribes. They're all through our tribal populations causing chaos. They're using our tribal populations to, what they do is they get a case. We're very sensitive in our countries with our tribal populations, and the courts do give them a lot of leniency because they do function within a proper natural law, and the courts will allow that sometimes to be attached to their hearings. And what these quackeries have done, have gone to our Indigenous people that have got a case, and then they've shoved them up front, and then they've attached these natural justice quasi-quackery organisations onto the native person who is given leeway in the courts. And so through that, their international courts of justice, or whatever they are able to be attached into our proper judicial system. And I think that this is the crime that needs to be investigated here. I'm not a lawyer. I just only have a high school, fourth level high school qualification. So this really needs a proper investigation by proper people. But I mean, anyway, I've got to go quickly here. So that's what they're doing. But all of these are involved with crowdfunding. And this is where they're making billions upon billions of dollars. Now, I did ask for a donation at the start of some of my videos, and I got about $300. But of that $300, I did spend I've been caught up in this myself. I spent $540 to put a proper case using proper statute law into our court, and the person that was doing it for me, knowingly or unknowingly, attached a bunch of these tribunals onto my case. And when I called it out and I said, I don't want any of those quackery organisations on my case, it's kind of fallen apart and my case is not moving forward. So I haven't given up on you people, but I did get a little hitch in the road. But from now on, I will not be asking for donations because of all these people that are asking for donations. And so I won't, but I did ask for a donation. I did need it, and I certainly did spend $540 on my case. And I did send a printer to New Zealand, and that cost me $500 as well. And I never got a single piece of material printed for me. So I have been spending, so far I'm out $1,300 of my own money that I have spent. So I haven't cheated anyone. So now presently we're quickly on this John Young. It's supposed to be a half-hour video, so I have to speak quickly. Now, John Young, now I've been saying this. I am saying that the mammon, go and research what mammon means. I'm saying that the mammons are all through our justice system. They're all through our courts. They're all through our parliaments. They're all through our councils. They are everywhere, and they're infusing their quasi laws into our system. We don't know who they are, what their laws are. Now, John Young was a part of this tribunal, and it says, here's what it says about him. He attended the University of Utah, Jacinda Ardern, on a tennis scholarship. And he studied biology and business in the early 70s. He did not graduate. Okay, so there's warning number one. He then went to perform missionary work for the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 2 years. Now, these missionaries have been in New Zealand since 1835. There's warning number two. He is not a medical doctor, but he's not a medical doctor, but he had received doctorates of naturopathy and nutrition from Clayton College of Natural Health. Going to get there in a minute, people. So he received they call themselves doctors or lawyers because they do in fact have these degrees from these natural universities that they're trying to get paid for by the government. That's what it's all about. They're trying to get all these things paid for as things as legitimate as doctors and legitimate as courts, and they're trying to get all that paid for. So that's what this is all about. So this was formerly called the American College of Holistic Nutrition. It is now called a defunct correspondence school, which was not accredited by any agency recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. See, these places, yes, their certificates are legitimate. Yes, you do go and do a bit of work, but they're not accredited. And these are the people that are leading you all at the moment. I'm telling you, be careful out there, people. The prosecution, he went to the trial, and his 2016 trial said that, they called them diploma mills. And it was pointed out that he had gone, here it is, he had gone from a bachelor's degree to a doctor's degree in 8 months. Now, Young has his residences in Utah because he's a Mammon and a Mormon, and his wife is there as well. He did a video, I'll show you in a minute. He did a video with the International Tribunal of Natural Justice with John Walsh, right? Where Sue Gray went, right? And in that video, he announces, I've got it written there, but I'll read it to you. He announces that he's got this are his qualifications. He's got 2 bachelor's degrees, he says. He's got 3 master's degrees, he says, and he's got a doctorate degree. Well, he probably have, and he got them all from the defunct correspondence school at the American College of Holistic Nutrition, which was not recognised by any educational institute in America. They're all coming out And I'm wondering, Sue Gray, about your degrees that you have announced at the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, which is all fake anyway. When you see all this, we have to ask this question, people, don't we? So great. So what had happened was Robert Young was taken to the court, and he lost money because he was helping supposedly cancer patients, and he went on the Oprah Winfrey show. He's written a series of books on holistic healing, and he went on the Oprah Winfrey show, and he featured a treatment of Kim Tinkham for breast cancer, and he claimed that he had cured her, and she died shortly afterwards, which was not announced, and he went to prison. Now, he's defending that, but I mean, he went to prison, but I mean, he may have helped her and he may have not have, but this is not the point. When you're sitting on these tribunals announcing that you've got all these degrees and you find out where all these degrees come from, the whole thing is falling apart before our eyes. So I'm not saying that what they have done is true or not true, but I'm just giving you the evidence of what the things that they're not saying. You know, there's a thing in law called lying by omission. That you can tell the truth, and this is what, in my opinion, Sue Gray is doing. You can tell the truth, but you can omit so much. You take one small piece of truth and you can omit so much from it that you come up with a whole different story, and it's not a lie, but it's called lying by omission. My 15-year-old son does it all the time, and I have to explain it to him that you lied to me because you did not tell me all the facts. You told me you were going to the shopping mall, but you didn't tell me that you were going to meet the gang was going down there taking drugs or whatever. Not that my son was, but I mean, this is just an example. For goodness sake, it's called lying by omission. So here he is. Now, I want you to pay. It's called We Act, and I'm wondering about the ACT Party in New Zealand now. So here is John Young with all of his fancy degrees from the University of Quackery. And I don't know if anyone knows who she is. And if anyone knows who she is, who are they? They're at his tribunal that he was doing a judicial commission of inquiry. I'm not sure what his is about. I watched a wee bit of it, and then I thought, you know, I'm just going to make my own video because I'm just not even going to listen to them anymore because they're all bullshit, aren't they? You're bullshit. And we've all been, well, I was never deceived, quite frankly. I don't believe any of them. But if you want to, it's a case of, I'll believe you, but thousands freaking wouldn't, would they? Huh? Would they? I'm yelling now. Right, so here is John Young's university, and it's called the Clayton College of Natural Health. It is a non-accredited American distance learning of natural health based in Birmingham, Alabama, but they're all the same. Now, here's why I'm questioning Sue Gray. Sue, now we have to be careful because there's Sue Gray, and then there's another Sue Gray. And this is how these organisations work. They work by piggybacking the illegitimate onto the legitimate to make it look like it is legitimate when it never was. And that is the deception that you have to find. Can they stand alone, or are they piggybacked on? Now, the 1990 New Zealand Bill of Rights is a useless document. It is piggybacked on to New Zealand law. It is the Human Rights Act is a useless document. It's piggybacked onto our laws. Any law that needs to be piggybacked onto another law to give it credibility, in my opinion, is a false deception to the public. That's what I'm saying. That's what this case is about. Now, Sue Gray got her supposed degree in 1990. Now, I'm not sure about this Sue Gray here. This Sue Gray is in the legitimate Parliament of England. You're going to have to investigate her, but I do have a little bit to say about her. And so you aren't going to have to go and investigate her, but I'm too busy in New Zealand. I can't take care of you in the UK or you in Australia or you in Canada. I'm doing New Zealand, you're going to do all yours, and I'm going to do all mine. We're going to connect it all up, but we all know they're up to no good with their ecclesiastical courts that are illegal, by the way. So, in my opinion, I have to say my opinion because I don't want to be prosecuted and then defamed by Sue Gray. I forgot to put up a bit of thing that she sent me to. So this college apparently... Now, this college was set up in 1980. So it was set up in 1980. And Sue Gray in New Zealand got her degree in 1990. So, you know, I don't know, Sue Gray. And here it says the Clayton College had 25,000 students. And it says some of the most notable students have been part of controversies. And I'm just saying the school was founded in 1980, and Sue Gray apparently holds various degrees, and apparently she holds, I don't know, go and listen to a thing. I don't want to say what she holds because I don't want to make a mistake and I don't want to get defamed, but apparently she holds various certificates and various degrees, and I'm questioning that presently. I'm not saying that they are not legitimate, but I'm saying that I'm challenging Sue Gray to come out to the public and explain exactly where you got your degrees from, when you got them, and to show correct evidence that you are a legitimate person, all right? So that's what I'm just going to say to you, Sue Gray. Now, apparently this was until 2010, and then if it's only until 2010, I am assuming that it closed down. And then the other guy, Mikichich or whatever his name is, he did his in 2002, and we know that John Walsh started his up somewhere. It was closed in 2017, so in between there, he set his up around about that time, and he was closed down in disbarred in 2017, and then in 2019, all of these people are going to the International Courts of Justice. Now, here's Sue Gray in exactly the same. Now here's the question, everybody. Who are these two people here? Now, this one was a different hearing of the International Courts of Justice, and here is Sue Gray, and she's sitting between these two people, and I'm wondering who they are, because they do seem to be. Now, this guy here is the ecclesiastical leader. He's always there, and John Walsh heading it up, he's always there. Now, I don't know this, I can't remember this guy's name here, but if you go and watch the video, he does, to me, though I haven't investigated, he does seem to be a credible person. And this is what I'm saying to you, is that they take the non-credible and they piggyback it to the credible to make themselves look like they are credible when they never were if they were standing by themselves. Now, this guy here, and it's interesting to me that they did choose a black man, because I think that this is what they're doing. They are deliberately choosing Indigenous people, cultural people, because nobody wants to question the black man, because everyone's too scared of being called racist. So what do? You shove a black man up front because no one will challenge them. And this is what they have done here. And so he seemed, I did listen to him. I haven't researched him. I did go and have a look at it. I couldn't find anything on him. He may perhaps be just the fall guy, is he called the patsy, or just the guy that they're using here? This man here, I forget his name, but he's very involved in the International Health Organization, which is just another spin-off of these, and they're all the same. I'm even saying the United Nations is no different from any of them. They are all tribunals, and they are all courts that have no legitimacy without being piggybacked onto legitimate law. And what they are attempting to do is piggyback their tribunals into our legitimate laws to give themselves credibility. So there they are there. Here is a Zoomy, these Zoomy meetings. I think this is Sasha Stone, I'm not sure. There's John Walsh as he's there. And here is Sue Gray planning the event. And I don't know who these other people here, but you do have to wonder if perhaps, I'm not being offensive, everybody says I am, but here is a black person, and you do wonder if the black person is the only legitimate one there and everybody else is a fraud. I'm just wondering. They shove a black person up front so that people are too scared to criticise because they think they're going to be called out as being racist. But if you want to freaking call me racist, you know what? I'm Kate Floss and I don't give a toss. You can call me racist all you like. I'm looking, and if I'm seeing wrong, I'm going to be calling out wrong. I don't care what colour you are. If you're black, you're whatever you are. There's only black and white to me. And everyone wants me to do the colours. They want me to do the yellow, the brown, the medium brown. I'm not. You're either black or you're white. I never liked to use colour previously, but they have forced my hand. So, unfortunately, I do just have to say those words, but I really don't like to. So, I'm almost finishing here. So, here's Sue Gray in another one that she's involved with, New Earth Festival, which was one of the things that I just pointed out to you before. It's the New Earth, in my opinion, any of these courts that don't have judicial acts, that have not been passed in a parliament that were voted by for the people. Now, I'll just do a quick, what is parliament? What happens in parliament? What happens in parliament? We vote them in. And we are the sovereign. And we vote them in, right? When we vote them in, we give them the mandate. We say, we trust you. We give you a mandate with restrictions. We restrict, where we have rights to stop them through the courts if we want to. So we restrict. Now they make laws, or they pass bills because of our mandate. And if we don't like those bills, we can go in and we can say, hey, we don't like that. We're not happy. And we can go, the sovereign, what's another colour here? I don't know if you can see that. I'll put another one. The sovereign, which is us, which we place in the power of the Majesty, the Queen, the sovereign can say no. That's our right. But when you're going to go to these courts, there is no sovereign mandate. This is why they're not legitimate. The sovereign has not given any of these people the mandate to pass any laws that can be used correctly in a court of law that we can dispute. And so when they attach their law onto our law, we are only able to dispute our law because it is mandated by the people. But we cannot dispute the human rights law because it is not mandated by the people. So it's kind of a sneaky thing going on when they attach that and then they add that onto a 1990 bill. Well, this 1990 bill was mandated. You can dispute the 1990 bill, but you can't dispute this that has been attached. So therefore they should not be allowed to attach these laws onto our laws that are passed through Parliament, because our mandate, our right to dispute, our right to vote in the people that make that law has been removed, and that is illegal, and I'm going to show you why. It's illegal for them to do that because they have to have the mandate to attach their laws. So this is a very sneaky thing going on in our legal system, and we need to address it further. Now, Sue Gray was a part of an investigation. She's currently a part of an investigation. This is from, where I'm putting up here is the place that had this story. So this story is from the New Zealand Herald, and the story is by Kate Broughton. And it was on November 12th, 2021. And in this story, the Law Society is investigating the activities of Sue Gray as an anti-vax campaigner. The man that filed this complaint is Glenn Jeffrey, and he said, I hope she's disbarred and she is stripped of her ability to practice law in New Zealand. And reading from what I'm reading, the places that she is leading the New Zealand public that are into courts that have no legitimacy in law, a qualified lawyer of New Zealand is leading the New Zealand public all over the world into courts of justice that are not legitimate. I believe, in my opinion, that there is a deception here to the people, and this has to be stopped. And so, yes, there must be an investigation. So, she was also part of, this is from the New Zealand Herald, another complaint that was passed in 2003, where there was a fisheries, I'm not going to go into it, you can go and Google it if you want, but there was a fisheries complaint, and it involved more than $100 million of colluding and fraud within the fisheries of New Zealand, I assume. Sue Gray apparently entered into a relationship with one of the people that were involved with this, and it jeopardised the entire case. And I'm not going to read the whole case because that is irrelevant to what we're talking about today, but it just does say in the case that all the major allegations of corruption, such as bribery, were withdrawn or melted away, and those making them into the one arena withdrew them before the committee. So everything, I am assuming, I don't know what happened here, but a lot of it was withdrawn. I know there was a big court case. I don't know the end of it. Please go and research yourself if you're interested. I'm not interested. I'm just saying that she is under investigation for complaints. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying that she was guilty. I'm saying that she has been under investigation. Sue Gray, everyone knows I'm against this whole COVID thing, because I think that the whole COVID thing is set up by the mammons that are intent on infusing all of these laws. So what they're doing is they're creating situations all over our Commonwealth countries, and they're getting lawyers just like Sue Gray to take legitimate cases through the courts, but they're piggybacking on all of these courts of justice, human rights, international this, international that, all of these thousands and thousands of laws that have not been mandated by the people. This is the story here. None of this is relevant. The story here is that they are piggybacking on thousands of illegitimate laws into our mandated laws that were mandated in Parliament by our government that we gave the sovereign power to. That's the story here. Please do not get confused about who I'm talking about here. Not really talking about Sue Gray or John Walsh or John Young or whoever they are. I'm saying that there is a crime taking place in our judicial system by piggybacking on these illegitimate laws onto our legitimate laws that we did not mandate. And we cannot fight against them because they're not in law. So we can't take the Human Rights Act to court because it's not a legal document, for God's sakes. So we're screwed. So she did just say in one of her posts, this is an example that she's been defending the Vax people. She came out in her post and she says, so this was by Webworm, David Farrier. He produced this story. And she says, when a Picton school teacher passed away, Sue was there. Sue Gray says, I've heard that a Picton school teacher died 48 hours after getting the vax. Does anyone have any information on this? So she does. She is a lawyer and she does put up there, I've heard. So that I also say these things. So she hasn't broken any laws. But I did receive this message from other people where they had deleted I heard. And they just said to me, all over the internet was saying, Picton school teacher died 48 hours after the vax. And the minute that I would say to people, well, where is the evidence? Where's the legitimate news source? They just would not speak to me after that. But many people don't ask. But on Sue Gray, someone did come up and someone did say, will you be taking down the posts about the teacher in Picton now that friends and family have messaged you that what actually happened and that it was an hereditary condition and she wasn't even vaccinated? Somebody said that's sad that she died, but also good to know because it wasn't because of the injection. Sue Gray comes back, and rather than being a responsible lawyer, because I would be responsible and say this was false and the thing that I heard was not true, because she's a public figure, she's running a political organisation, she's in the courts all the time with all of these natural courts of justice things piggybacked onto our law. She's got another case coming in now with another fake one. She should be responsible. Instead of announcing to the people that it wasn't true, all she said was, I'd like to know more as we need to ensure that people with hereditary conditions are fully informed about the risk from the vaccination and possible risk from vax shedding. Now, this is quite sneaky because it then says, so when the sneaky Facebookers, delete this one, and then they just add part of this one, and then they connect it to this one. You see, Sue Gray hasn't told any lies here, has she? Even if you put the I heard. And then when she adds this, she says, I'd like to know more as we need to ensure that people with hereditary conditions are fully informed about the risks of the vaccination. When you put the green one and the bottom one together, it looks like the person died from a vaccination. Just this is the way they're playing with words. So we've got to be so careful what they're up to. And so I'm saying, Sue Gray, that in my opinion, this amounts to manipulating the media, manipulating the public, lying by omission. I do think that there is a deception here. Another one of these courts is the new one, the newest one that I just received today. This is called the grand jury. The grand jury, and you don't. All you see is grand jury. You see grand jury. You see opening statements in big letters, and I never even saw this, but it says the court of public opinion. And then this is the message I get in my email. It says, criminal proceedings beginning live. Jacinda is on the list. And then you see this grand jury, and then you see their opening statements, and you think, oh my God, Jacinda Ardern's being prosecuted. She's on the grand jury and they're prosecuting her. And she freaking is not. She hasn't done anything. For goodness sakes, people. And I'm saying to you, there's another, now I want you to listen to this word, a quackery ecclesiastical court. Now, ecclesiastical courts are actually illegal. You can see from the pine cone at the top, if you look for this pine cone, you'll often see it on these things, the message. So this is the ecclesiastical court. Now, pre the year 1500, in 1215 and 1297, they had ecclesiastical courts, exactly the same as these. They are no different. They were set up by the religious organisations, and they passed punishments by their own people. There were many cruel and unusual punishments. Nobody was allowed to speak against them. You were tortured if you broke their laws. They were allowed to pass any sentences that they want. There was no mandate for the people. They were not decided in a parliament that was voted by the people. And these kind of courts were outlawed hundreds of years ago, 400 years ago. Now, why? Why is our judicial system, our legitimate judicial system, allowing these ecclesiastical courts, including the Human Rights Act, that is not mandated by the people, including the Human Rights Act and the Declaration of Indigenous Rights, which are not legitimate and not voted by our people? Why are our legitimate courts allowing these to be attached to our legitimate judicial documents that we cannot speak against them? We cannot prosecute against them. It's illegal. It is illegal for us to do that because they have no standing in law. There's something wrong with our legal system. It needs to be addressed. I'm sorry because I'm getting very upset now. I'm going to show you something. So these are some of the things that Sue Gray does. Save the children. Now, I'm not saying she's involved. You can see this up here. She's involved with it here. But these are some of these ecclesiastical courts that have no standing in our laws. One is called the Nuremberg Code. Another one is called the Helsinki Declaration. Another one is called the UNESCO Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights. Another one is called the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act of New Zealand. Now, these are only 4 of hundreds. Now, I've traced some of these laws. They trace to thousands upon thousands upon thousands of laws and courts and tribunals that you have. These are being carried out every single minute of every single day, creating laws. And what are they doing? They take your legitimate law and they attach one of these things onto it, like the New Zealand Bill of Rights, which has no power. They attach it on to give it legitimacy. but it was never voted in by the sovereigns, which is us. We are the sovereign. How do you spell sovereign? E-R-I. Can't spell. I left school at high school. I'm proud of my high school education. When I'm looking at what all these evil people are doing, give me a high school education any day, because I mean somebody should be calling this out. It is disgusting. Our parliament is, in my personal high school uneducated conspiracy theory, our parliament is doing our countries of Australia, New Zealand, England, Canada, a disjustice, an injustice, a crime against us by allowing these illegitimate courts and these illegitimate laws to be attached on to our legitimate mandated courts by the people that were voted. I'm saying it's a crime. That is the crime there. Now, we do have one law. The only law that I follow presently is this Bill of Rights here. It's the Bill of Rights of 1688 from Will and Mary. It's called the Will. I call it the Will. They call it the Will and Mary. And it was given to us in 1688. And one of the most important parts, all of these organisations were being carried out pre-1688, and they were made illegal back then, 400 years ago. And they have made this law, and it says here that I do declare that no foreign prince and also shall have any power or any authority within our realm. And it's talking about ecclesiastical courts. What are ecclesiastical courts? Ecclesiastical courts are courts that are set up that have one or more religious organisation involved in it. People that do not recognise the judicial courts that are mandated by the sovereign people. They don't recognise them. And what they're trying to do today in the present, since 1995, I think, is to attach their illegitimate ecclesiastical laws onto our legitimate voted in legal laws. And that is the crime. And this is what we need to be petitioning the court for. And I would like to do it. I'm trying to do it. If anyone can help me to do it, SOS, I want to do it. But unfortunately, when I tried to do it, these very people attached onto me and tried to attach their illegitimate laws onto me. So I had to drop my case. So now I'm back to square one where I'm trying to start my case again. And we are going to be asking that these ecclesiastical laws, including the Human Rights Act, that is not mandated by our people. It was piggybacked on to our law. We had our mandated law, which they piggybacked in on a non-mandated law, and then they said it was mandated. This is a deception. Now, I'm going to try and show it to you as very best I can. I've only got a high school education, and this law here is guaranteed by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth, Pooh Bear. Majesty Queen Elizabeth, who's the only person I trust at this point of my life. I trust no one else. She's had a hard time, and all of these courts and all of these organisations have been instigating Chinese whispers to the people to depose our Majesty and to illegitimise our Majesty by accusing her of all sorts of crimes that they have apparently held trials in these ecclesiastical courts against our Majesty. And the only person I trust at this point of my life is Her Majesty, and it's not that I trust the future King, Prince Charles, but I will have to, but they are the ones that guarantee this law, and as long as the Majesties are standing, the 1688 Bill of Rights will stand. And the only law that I trust at this present point of my life, aside, I don't trust the courts, I don't trust the Parliament, I don't trust any of the ecclesiastical courts, I'm not trusting anyone of that. I do trust my 1688 Bill of Rights that was put in by the people. And that says we're not allowed to have these. Now, I'm going to try and explain one last bit before I go. I'm on one. So what you have is your Human Rights Act here. We'll try and show it. Now, where did this come from? Where does it come from? Where do they get their power? No one. A United Nations court that was not voted by any of us. A United Nations court decided on all of these laws, and there are thousands of laws connected to this. Connected, right? Now, they're not allowed to use this law in our court. So we can put there, it is not, what's the word? It is not, can I say it's not effective? There's no penalty. The judge can say yes or no in a legal court of the people. And why is it not have it? The reason why it is not legal by the people is that we didn't vote. We had no say in any of these laws. So we didn't vote for them. So that's illegal in itself by the 1688 Bill of Rights. So they can't use it. It's like it's a lame duck law. That's what it is. It's a lame duck. I'll put on there, lame duck. Oh, can't put it on there. You can't see the yellow. Now, then what have you got here? You've got your 1990 Bill of Rights. I'll just put here BOR. Right? Now, this is in New Zealand, Australia, England, Canada. They just introduced it in around about the 1990s, about the same time that these ecclesiastical courts all started up. It's all coming into the same time frame. And what you'll see here is that the 1990 Bill of Rights, now this was written by Parliament. And the Parliament is voted. So we can say that Parliament is voted. So that's why this law has some mandate on it. Then what they did, this was created in 1990, right? And this here was created in 1993. What they did is that they added a section here called Section 19. And then on Section 19, they inserted. So Section 19 originally was it just had something that said like no discrimination or something, right? So everybody thought, oh, there's nothing wrong with that. How to spell that when you've got a high school education. But what they did is that they added this word here in big letters, and human rights. So they did this in 1993. You see, so this is how they legitimise their law that has no legitimacy. They piggybacked it onto here. Now, I'm going to tell you another little tidbit of interesting information. So that's how they have infused their law. So they've got all of this unmandated law, which attaches to thousands of laws and all of these ecclesiastical courts, because all the ecclesiastical courts, this was the Trojan horse. The human rights was the Trojan horse. And then everybody's following that. So they're all doing it now because they said, well, they can do it, well, you can do it too, everybody's going to do it. And so we've created this huge mess. But if you go down to section 28 of the 1990 BOR, what you'll see there is that it says other rights unaffected. And that is because of the 1688 Bill of Rights. That forbids this. And it forbids doing this. You can't do it because none of it was voted in by the people. And so there's a crime here being carried out in all of our Commonwealth countries. And it needs to be exposed and it needs to be sent through the legitimate courts and it needs to be challenged. And I hope if anybody goes and does it ahead of me, that you will call me up and let me be a part of it, because I have worked very hard on this for many years. So I hope that you won't forget about Kate Floss and my high school education. And if anybody wants to help me take this case to court, please contact me, Kate Floss, and we'll take it to the courts. It has to go to the courts in all of our countries, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, England, not America, because America's doing it. So other rights are unaffected. Why are you having no success with your cases in the courts in New Zealand, Australia, and England? Why are you not having no success? Because you keep using this, and you keep using this, and you keep using this, and they have no power. You've got to use your imperial laws that the Queen gave to you, Queen Victoria gave to you, King William gave to you, the Prince and Princess of Orange gave to you from Almighty God. Those are the laws that you've got to use if you want to win your cases. You ain't going to win anything on that 1990 piece of trash that you might as well, sorry, Queen, that you might as well go, and wipe your backsides with. You might as well go and wipe your backsides with all of this, for all the good that it's going to do you. It has no legitimacy, none of it. And that is the deception, everyone. Kate Floss, signing out. Oh, I'm just going to add a wee bit here. I hope it can be heard that this is Sue Gray in, I don't know if I've got a pen here. Have I got a pen? Yes, I have. So this is Sue Gray, Gray, and she's in the United Kingdom. Now, she, from what I've seen, is a legitimate parliamentary member of Parliament. But there's even some controversy coming up with her as well. These are the two Greys, Sue Gray and Sue Gray. Is Sue Gray here in New Zealand. So Sue Gray and Sue Gray. Now, this one here is another example. The investigation was about this party that the Boris Johnson and various other members of Parliament had a party in Parliament, right? And what they've decided is to have this investigation by this Sue Gray, Gray. And the man was saying that it's a very curious thing, because he was saying that ultimately it is an internal investigation by one civil servant she reports to the ministers and the other civil servants and various advisors and third party. What they're saying is that this is not a quasi-judicial process, and it has no independent standing. So they're saying, but it does seem that she's the one doing the investigation. What it says here, yet it has been accorded some substantial political force, and it is being used by ministers and others as an excuse not to be properly accountable to the Parliament. And then I'll try and show you why that apparently is. That, if you see here, that the investigation at 10 Downing Street, here's 10 Downing Street, the investigation, that's just the allegations made. Everybody knows about the parties, and that's brought down the whole of the COVID-19 thing. Seems to be stopping because that they were caught out on the parties, the beer and the fun parties they were having behind closed doors of Parliament with no masks and no social distancing. But it does say here, let's see. During the investigations, if they find anything wrong with the investigation, if they find, well, this is the thing, if they find a criminal offence, well, ask yourself a question. Is a party in the garden a criminal offence? The answer is no. Do the parliamentary members have special powers to be able to hold their gatherings, to be able to side-skirt many of the COVID-19 laws, including having vaccinations in New Zealand, they can avoid the vaccinations. So are they allowed to do that? Are they allowed to gather as their political party because they're in Parliament and they have to do their job? The answer is yes. So are there any criminal offences going on here? The answer is probably no. So nothing's going to be sent to the criminal, to the police, because they didn't do anything. But is there a moral? You see, there is a moral crime here. And so when there's a moral crime, here's where these quasi-judicial courts come into being. Call them, what did he call them? He called it a quasi-judicial process, and that is exactly the quasi-judicial process. I'm missing the last bit where I think I've missed. There was one bit where it said, have I not put it up there? It says that, maybe I haven't put it up, but it does say in that thing, I've missed it, that if there are any, it's up here. I've missed it. Okay, however, if the findings of the investigations will be made public, however, the long-standing practice of successive administrations, so all the administrations, if there are any specific human rights actions that are against individuals, they will remain confidential. And that's what I'm saying about this Human Rights Act. This Human Rights Act is a way for parliamentarians to sidestep their moral accountability to the people, that there's no criminal offence here because they're writing laws for themselves so that they don't have to be accountable to criminal offences. I found laws in New Zealand where they've actually put clauses in the laws that they are unaccountable to any adverse effects of that law. They've actually put it into the laws. So they're writing themselves laws to sidestep the criminal code, but in addition, they're trying to say to themselves, as long as they follow this human rights that has no accountability and no penalty, this is the main thing, no penalty, all of that is going to remain confidential so that because nobody's allowed to speak against the human rights. I hope you all know that. Apparently, it is almost a crime to speak against the human rights. So there's definitely more deception going on here. That's the end of my video. That's just a little tidbit. So that is to do with, if you're over in England, you've got to do your own investigations of your Sue Gray, and I've been doing my investigations of my Sue Gray. And sometimes when you accuse my Sue Gray, she has turned around and said to me, oh, you're talking about the UK Sue Gray. And this is also a deception when they give names so close to each other. So that's just another story. Oh.